Welcome to our conversation on meat and dairy direct sales. Today we're talking about navigating regulations and licenses, as well as aggregation opportunities. At the beginning, you may have noticed that everyone is muted when they first log on, just so we can cut down on background noise. If you wouldn't mind keeping yourself on mute while others are speaking, that will help if, the dog barks or the baby cries or whatever else is going on in your lives. We know everybody's working from home, and things are a little different than they used to be. If you have questions or technical difficulties at any time, feel free to type into the chat box. And one thing I'm going to say that's worked really well at some of these past conversations is someone may type a question into the chat box, and then other people who have answers or related questions or experiences that are relevant have chimed in, and it's been really helpful. So don't feel like you only have to ask questions in the chat box. If you have answers, if you have ideas, type whatever is on your mind. I realize some people may be calling in by phone. We'll make a point to share some of the most relevant questions during this conversation. However, and we'll also make a point to share the slides that are being shown. So if you're on the phone, running around doing other things, don't worry, we'll make sure you catch up on anything. If you're on the phone and you feel like you would like to unmute yourself and chime in with a question, press *6 to unmute or mute yourself. We are recording this conversation, and it will be posted afterwards. It's going to take about 3 to 5 days to get the posting up, and that is because for the first time we have live closed captioning. And so you can actually, there's a link in the window here. Captions may be viewed via stream text by selecting the link available in the chat window. It's also available on the screen right now. And we'll make that closed captioning available in tandem with the recorded video when we post it. It will be posted eventually at go.uvm.edu/cellvtfood. And you can go there for the recording and information about future conversations, as well as many of the resources that are going to be talked about today. We're going to be hearing from Jen Colby with the Center for Sustainable Agriculture. She's the Pasture Program Coordinator. We'll also hear from Beth Whiting and Bruce Hennessy, who are both from Maple Wind Farm, and Greg Georgiaklis, I hope I didn't butcher your name, Greg, from Farmers to You, as well as E.B. Flory from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture. But before I turn it over to our speakers, I just want to get a quick sense of who is with us here today. So on your screen right now, you should see a poll that says describe yourself, check all that apply. And if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to fill in the answers, and apologies to those of you who are on the phone and can't actually see what's going on. We'll give folks a minute to keep putting in answers. All right, I'm going to end the polling now, and I'll share the results so everyone can see who's with us. We have about 67% farmers, 10% extension service providers, 19% nonprofits, again 19% government agencies, 10% educators, and another 10% other. If you don't mind outing yourself, if you did put in other, please take a moment now to type into the chat what it is that you do. We appreciate knowing who's here. We realize people register in advance and we get some good information there. And don't worry, we will not, we will only use your email list for purposes related to this webinar. But it's really helpful to know who's actually been able to join us here and now. Now I'm going to stop sharing the results and hand it over to you, Cheryl. Oh, I'm sorry, and hand it over to you, Jen.
Thanks, Lisa. I won't take very much time. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Jen Colby with the UVM Extension Center for Sustainable Agriculture. I manage grazing and livestock programming with a whole bunch of other amazing folks statewide. And so we interface quite a lot with livestock, both dairy and non-dairy livestock. And throughout the shift of the last 4 to 6 weeks, we've been getting a lot of questions around how livestock folks could shift from potentially a wholesale model into more direct sale model, or how they might join in with an aggregator, or someone who is finding themselves in the position of being an aggregator. And it just prompted a lot of questions around how that's working, what's working, what's not, what folks should be keeping in mind, and if there are licenses, permits required that a shift in the way that someone markets might be required. So brought in some folks who are much more knowledgeable in these areas than myself. And so our plan is just to start with a local aggregation model. Looks like Bruce is not with us, but Beth fantastically is here from Maple Wind Farm to talk about how some things have changed and ramped up for them in the last few weeks, partly as a planned but hastened process. And then we've asked Greg to join us to talk much more established, larger scale system and experience going throughout the region and out of state. And then we have both E.B. Flory from the dairy section chief from the Ag Agency, and then also Julie Bovair from the meat, a recent addition, Lisa, so she didn't make it onto the slide. Julie Bovair, who is the meat inspection chief, to be able to answer some questions about meat and dairy. So with no further ado, Beth, if you would, oh, Bruce did join. Yay, I didn't even see you there. So would you guys mind just sort of taking 10 to 15 and just sort of telling us a little bit about your experience? Yes. Thank you.
Be happy to. I hope that the voice comes through okay. We were told earlier that it was a little bit funky. So thank you for having us. We are Beth and Bruce, Beth Whiting, Bruce Hennessy of Maple Wind Farm. We farm in Huntington and Richmond, Vermont. We've been in business. This is our 21st season of raising pasture-raised livestock, beef, pork, poultry, turkeys, and layer hens as well. We have a USDA processing poultry facility on site, of which we this season will process about 30,000 of our own chickens and about 1,500 turkeys, in addition to the service for other farmers. Quick little background on us. Right now, we are in the throes of an exciting time. Things have been ramping up for our direct sales during this COVID time. Everything is a little obvious, or we wouldn't all be sitting here talking about this subject. But in the last, I'd say 4 to 5 weeks, we have seen a rather large increase in our online sales. We were blessed to already have an online store in the works that we had up and running last year, taking a little bit of orders here and there. It's really an inventory tool for us, which has been great. About 2 weeks prior to the stay-at-home COVID crisis, we were starting a home delivery service. We decided to pilot that program once every 2 weeks, see what came about, bringing our products to customers so they wouldn't have to come to our farm in Richmond. And we were doing maybe 6 to 7 deliveries, and then lo and behold, 1 week later, we were doing 60 to 70 home deliveries or on-farm pickups. So we were blessed to have our systems in place on the internet. And the one thing that was really helpful for us is just to have the, it's an online platform that we use called Gray's Cart. I am aware that there are lots of different carts out there, platforms to use, but that's the one that we've chosen. It takes credit card payments, and it's been very, very positive experience for us. But really what it comes down to is providing the service to our customers. When the COVID crisis hit, we decided to make it even more accessible and more convenient to people. So we took away the delivery fee to make it more accessible, like I had mentioned, and that I think was really helpful. People really were appreciative that they could order smaller amounts and get them safely to their front door. And then not only bringing our own Maple Wind Farm frozen meat products and eggs, we realized that we had a shortfall in some areas of our inventory, and it made a lot of sense when the Burlington Farmers Market took a was closed for the end of the winter season and the beginning of the summer season. We wanted to reach out to some of our fellow vendors who might not have had an online store set up or needed some other retail sales because everybody's wholesale sales were down. And we have since brought on about 10 partner farms, food only, and flowers actually. And that has been really wonderful to help some other folks move some product and flush out the store so that people could have a wider variety. Am I missing anything, Bruce?
Yeah, just talking for a minute about Gray's Cart. There are a number of other platforms. Barn to Door comes to mind. There's Shopify, but Gray's Cart is a platform developed by farmers, and it has the added benefit of being able to do an estimated checkout for our customers, and then when we pull the actual pieces of meat that are sold by the pound, we can put in the actual pounds and charge them the actual amount later. There's some education to do with our customers about that, but that's really been a great thing for us as meat vendors, particularly. I think the second piece is that we've also started a New England and New York wide shipping program that just started this week, and that has seen quite a large response, given that it's only our first week and we kind of had a soft opening. People didn't really understand, don't really know that we do this yet. So so that's been a big deal. One of the great challenges for us has been how to actually do. Well, this week will be just under 100 orders that have come in from different private individuals. Mm-hmm. And it's been a big challenge to learn how to do a lot of home deliveries in a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. When you look at UPS and other, companies that are in this business, they're doing 170 per driver each day. And it's been a stretch for us to do 50 or 60 in a day. So it's we've gotten into using some online route optimization programs and apps, and those have I've tested now. I'm on my fourth one. I think we're gonna stick with this one, which is Optimo Route, and that's been a very steep learning curve for us, and it's also been a steep learning curve to put together that many orders in a week's time. Actually, just in a couple of days of time. So and coordinating with partner farms, getting their stuff into those boxes since they're mostly not frozen, has also been a real challenge for us. But we've gotten better and better each week, to the point where I think last week was our first week where we didn't make any serious mistakes. I think that, I don't know, I don't have anything else.
I see our maple delivery out there, out the window. So it's exciting. The one thing that I will say that's a little different about our partner collaboration, we chose a model of not being wholesalers of other products. We wanted our partner farms to be able to get a pass through of as much retail dollars as they would have sold it for at the farmer's market. So we don't hold any product. I don't have a warehouse or shelves full of maple cream, for instance. So it's up to the partner to decide whether it's a risk for them to have a high numbers or a low numbers. It just varies. So whatever I get the orders for that week cycle, I sent out emails this morning as to what was ordered, and then we have our partner farms bring us the ordered amount to the farm. They give us an invoice, and we put a small percentage fee to cover our merchant fee and handling just minimally, so that the partner farm gets a maximum amount. So
we're not currently sure if that's something that's going to last. Happy to answer the question about shipping in the New York and New England region.
I think we have just a few minutes left, so yeah. I don't want to.
But we can happy to answer that question, which is that we've just opened that, so we don't have a lot of experience to tell you about. We've worked. Gray's Cart does support shipping on their platform. You can actually split out a kind of a parallel universe for people who are outside our local home delivery area. We charge a little bit more per pound and offer free shipping with a minimum order of $75. We don't even allow orders any less than 75, and then it goes out into our zone. We work with a company called PeriShip that kind of handles some of the logistics for us. They have a zone that they kind of guarantee a 1 at the most 2-day delivery to, and we've done a dock test with our box to make sure that our frozen product will stay frozen during that time period. Are we able to fulfill all our orders? Absolutely not. No, we were not prepared from an inventory perspective for this to happen. So, for instance, we were out of chicken before COVID even was an issue. We're going to soon have a lot more chicken when we start processing here in a couple of weeks. But no, we're not prepared, and there were a lot of things, particularly beef, that we sold out of very quickly, ground beef in particular. And then we've been able, the neat thing about that is we've been able to turn to partner farms for that. And, you know, we're looking for farms that kind of follow our same production methods. And so we've been working with Snug Valley, we've been working with Stony Pond, both of which are 100% grass-fed beef producers. We've also been working with Grass Cattle Company. And so that's what we're doing to help fulfill our beef orders. We don't have we don't have a chicken source that kind of follows our same program right now. So we're waiting to do that until we start slaughtering again.
Do you guys want to answer that last question there, and then we'll PeriShip. Perfect.
We put it up.
PeriShip works. Just a quick. PeriShip works with FedEx only, and they are an aggregator, so they get kind of bulk pricing on FedEx, and that's for a whole nother webinar because it took a while to figure out pricing. It's a big deal. But
it opened us up to over 4,000 zip codes to present our product to, which is significant, particularly in our area. We're very lucky that we have so many millions of people within a 1 to 2 day shipping zone.
Thanks for having us. Hopefully we
Fantastic.
offered some information.
Thank you both very much. And I would definitely encourage folks to keep asking questions in the chat, because once we'll open this up at the end, I'm sure there will actually be a lot more questions. So thank you guys so much. And if Greg is ready to share his story and experience, we would love that.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for joining us.
Yep. Thanks, Beth and Bruce. That's quite a ramp up story. We've been at this for 10 years this April. Started back in 2010 with a hunch that we could build a regional food system that actually worked, connecting farmers directly with families. We focused on the Boston market because it was a close, dense market. We knew this model would need density. It would need people packed fairly close together. That's kind of one of the weak spots of food distribution, is we end up with food deserts in a lot of places out in the countryside because there isn't enough density to support that. However, we started out, and pretty much the model that we came up with, we've stuck to, and it's been working really well. This recent crisis with COVID-19 has pretty much exploded our business in a positive way. In 4 weeks, our sales have increased well over 200%, and we actually had to stop taking new orders. We ran out of room at our hub, where I'm at right now. We're packing, put on a second crew, got 2 more trucks, more drivers. We did everything we could do, but in the end, we actually ran out of floor and refrigeration space, and that's a little bit of a longer term ramp up for us. So we're in that process now of doing it. Some of the numbers, to just give you a little bit of a history. Like I said, we started out 10 years ago. We, before COVID-19 hit, we were shipping about 800 orders a week. And we were, the orders, I'm babysitting my son's puppy, so pardon me if I look back every once in a while. So we were at about 800 orders a week. The average order size was about $70 on each of those orders. Vast majority of them went down to Boston every week. And that's every week of the year, by the way. We ship on Wednesdays and Thursdays every week of the year. So then COVID-19 hit, and basically the average order size went to $135, so nearly double. And then we had to shut down new orders when we hit close to 1,300 new orders. Good boy, excuse me. So anyway, that has been, it's been quite a growth curve for us. And as somebody pointed out with Beth and Bruce, we're at kind of the low point of availability in farms in Vermont right now. Vegetables, even for some meats, and many, many other products. So it's kind of surprising how well it's gone, all told. How our model works is basically we partner with about 100 farms right now. We offer about 370 items every week. They change from week to week, probably about 10 to 15 to 20% of them change week to week because of seasonality and availability. We're able to carry a limited stock item. In other words, you may be seeing an item on the website, and then you might come back an hour later and it might be gone because everybody's bought all the availability, so it shuts itself off. In terms of software, we had to build our own. At the time we started this, nobody could do the things we needed done. The landscape's gotten a little bit better out there, but we have an unusual thing where basically once you place an order with us, that order will repeat unless you do something. It's a bit of a negative incentive model. It's worked really, really well. What it does is, what was happening at the very beginning is we would show up with an order. We would show up with our orders at a site, and someone would walk up and say they're ready to pick their order up, and we would look and look and look for their order, and it wasn't there. Well, they had forgotten to place a new order for the week. Very busy families in an urban environment are so overscheduled. They're literally, it's very hard for them to keep a habit and a rhythm going. So we polled them all and we said, can we make this a repeating order type model? And they all said yes. So we did that, and it's worked out really well. So you place an order. Some items disappear off the order because they're limited stock. So they're available this week, they won't be available next week. Or they change. We have a pasta maker and he changes maybe the flavor of the ravioli, so that'll come off your order. But everything else stays. And then you add to that, or you can suspend at any time. Before COVID-19, our suspension rate was about 20%. We had 1,000, 1,200 active customers, and about 20% of them suspended every week. That gave us an order count of 800. Now we have about 1,600 average customers. They're only suspending at a rate of 10%. Everybody's home, everybody's cooking. Things like meats and flour and eggs are selling out. It has not been an issue before this, but the demand for some of those products has gone right through the roof. Our farmers, the 100 or so farmers, most all of which are in Vermont, including Beth and Bruce, have done an amazing job keeping up with the demand. Typically, our order size has doubled to triple with many, many of our farmers. It's hit at a good time for them because they've lost their restaurant and institutional business. It just shut off, as well as farmers market business. You know, Red Hand can't open their cafe except for takeout. That was a real profit center for them, a very good one. So we immediately sat down with Randy and Liza, and they're making a soup and cookies and a bunch of other things that they can do with their cafe staff that keeps them employed. And we're selling $2,000 to $3,000 worth of just that product every week. So there have been some nice opportunities that will probably carry over till afterwards. We get a lot of phone calls here from farmers, from some of our partner farmers and others saying, how do I get online? How do I start selling online? And I think the takeaway from Bruce and Beth is they started before this happened. They had something in place that they could expand on before this happened. That's really important. This is not a short-term solution. This is a long-term solution and should be approached that way. This is long-term persistent marketing. You need to build a loyal customer base over time. And then, as you also heard them say, this is a whole different business. This is about delivery, it's about packing, it's about aggregating different things, about how are you going to handle them, the logistics of the whole thing. It's a lot of things that you don't necessarily have as a normal skill set on a farm. This is why many people who try to do CSAs or many multiple farmers markets struggle a lot. It's a whole different set of skills, and you need to approach it that way. If you've got somebody on staff who's really good at solving puzzles and doing logistics and packing and things like that, then you're ahead of the game. But the first thing you really want to do is take a hard look at who's your market. You know, who should you sell to? You know, we came up with, for us, it was really Boston. We knew a group of people there already. We knew we had some kind of beachheads down there at certain schools and community centers and towns that we knew about. We could get started with those and let the word spread. And we also, we knew the people and their buying habits and knew what was available or not available in the marketplace. Hold on just a moment.
How many bags of shoots did you get? 2. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You see.
Sorry. So what I was saying is, you need to know your market. You need to know who the competition is there. At that time, there were no more co-ops left in Boston. The last one actually just closed a couple of months ago. Whole Foods has basically put them all out of business. To get local food in Boston is really a chore, very, very difficult. So we knew there was this whole group of customers who were shopping at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, wanted organic product, knew they weren't getting local. The local footprint at supermarkets has shrunk now to a place where it almost isn't even there anymore. So the food we're sending them is totally different than the food that's available there. Another lesson, you have to be extremely consistent. Every week we do the same thing at the same time. We send emails out at exactly the same time. We communicate in the same way. We pack orders in exactly the same way. If people are buying food online, they have expectations, and you have to exceed those expectations. If you show a picture of an absolutely perfect apple and then you send an apple with a blemish, you're going to get a bunch of emails. It's just how consumers have been trained. You want to collaborate. You want to find people to work with. So if, you know, Beth and Bruce are talking about working with other farms, that's important. You want to be able to work together to try to scale these resources. This type of model is a model that needs to have some scale to it. We didn't start making any money till we got to about 500 orders a week. And mind you, now I don't have a farming operation or a food production operation at this point to subsidize any of this work. So we are working, we buy the product from farmers, we mark it up like a retailer, and then we bring it to Boston. Okay, so again, think long term. The farmers you pick, you heard Bruce and Beth talk about it, need to have the same standards as you. You've got to have the highest standards you can find. Now, sometimes in a certain category, you're going to find it hard to maybe meet the standards that you want, but you want to find the person and the people with the highest standards in that category and encourage them to get better and better. Again, think long term. This stuff takes a while to build up. We've been at it 10 years. And 10 years is typically about the amount of time it takes for a new enterprise to really get its feet off the ground. Please charge for service. Message to Beth and Bruce, don't give delivery away. Last mile delivery is extraordinarily expensive, almost 20% the cost of the food. I'm gonna let that one sink in. 20% of the cost of the food. People are used to this idea of free delivery. Somebody's gotta pay for it. And you make it transparent, you let people know, here are the prices, this gives the farmer a good price, here's a delivery charge, this makes sure the delivery person is paid well, and that we have insurance and we're doing all the right stuff. Amazon and those people are terrible to their delivery people, horrible to their delivery people. And then the last thing I would say is encourage good behavior. Minimum order sizes, how people order, when they order, a deadline is a deadline. It's like a little bit of tough love. But if you do it up front, you train really, really good customers. They become loyal over time, and you quickly weed out the people who take up 80% of your time. Happy to answer questions.
So, so Greg, I think you've answered some of them, but we did get a question about are you taking on new farms at this point?
We're a little overwhelmed at the moment, but we definitely will be, especially if they have product. And I know you're going to ask me, what is that product that we're missing in our mix? We're trying to give the business to as many of our existing farms as possible, but we have taken on 4 or 5 new farmers in the last 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah, but definitely contact us. If you've got good product, if you're doing good work, if you're thinking about ramping up, let's have a conversation.
I know that several other farmers, as they registered, had asked that question as well. So thank you.
Yeah.
I think that I might suggest that we pivot to our ag agency folks, and so we can leave extra question time at the end. Thank you so much, Greg. This is great. I very much appreciate this. Let's see. So Julie or EB, are either of you able to unmute yourself? Not sure if you wanted to go in a particular order or.
Hi there, this is Julie. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Julie.
Hi, how are you? I'm not sure how to do my video, so and my internet is kind of slow, so if you guys can hear me, I'll start with that. So I don't know how many of you know me, but I'm the section chief for meat inspection at the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. What we do is we provide a program for inspection services for meat and poultry operations, slaughter facilities, And this allows producers to be able to sell their product, as the both of you were just speaking about, in your kind of like being able to do your online sales and things like that. So, and we try to provide as much technical and regulatory assistance we can to educate people on how to make a safe product, how to be able to sell their product. And this, of course, has a lot to do with the farmers you're mentioning as well. We also help with retail sales, how to start retail, especially now. We're seeing with the whole wholesale part of it, restaurants closing, how can they sell more of this meat and poultry product? So we try to educate them now what retail licenses they may need, what regulations they need to know, and to be able to sell that product. So that's basically what we do in a nutshell. And we're always here to answer questions and to help everybody go further.
Julie, this is Jen. Would it be helpful for me to share the screen with the handout that the Ag Agency just developed? And then I could throw that up there. Would that be helpful?
Sure.
I hope folks can see that. And actually, Julie, are you able to see it?
I can see part of it. There we go. You're moving it up.
Okay,
So,
there
yep,
you go. I can definitely move it up. Yep.
This is actually the new fact sheet that just came out.
Yes. So my understanding is this is on the Ag Agency website at this point?
I believe it is.
Okay. So the agency, based on a few different questions, was able to put together a fact sheet, a frequently asked question sheet for folks in different situations. I don't know if you're all seeing this as I am scrolling through. But depending upon whether you're in a dairy situation or in a meat situation, there are contact folks for different licenses, different permits. And the bottom line is check in with Julie or EB, depending. Cool. And EB, have you also been able to join us?
Yep.
Oh, excellent. Would you mind introducing yourself? And if you have video, I'm happy to stop sharing my screen if you would like to.
I have video, but I am indifferent. If you want to leave that up for people to read, that's fine by me too. So I'm E.B. Flory. I'm the dairy section chief at the Agency of Agriculture, which would be similar to Julie's position, but meat and dairy are very different in our products being manufactured and other things like that. So the big thing for the dairy section, we handle the food sanitation and standards for both the farm side, the trucking of the milk from the farms to the milk being turned into a value-added product, and then the actual distribution of that product. So we're involved with all of the food safety and sanitation standards with that. And Vermont has adopted, by reference, the federal pasteurized milk ordinance. So all of our farms have to meet grade A standards, and we use those same standards in our plants. And for dairy, there's really just two licenses. One is if you're just selling a product, a dairy product, there's a retail license you need. If you're actually making a product, you need a different, more in-depth license that involves frequent inspections and other things like that. But dairy is really divided up with whether you're making the product and selling it, or if you're just purchasing the product to resell or distribute and things like that.
I do know that we had a question from at least one person who was interested in dairy direct sales. Didn't specifically say raw milk, but I'm guessing that's certainly been a conversation conversation that I've got. A little bit about the raw milk
Yep.
sales.
So raw milk, there are 2 tiers in statute, and we've been getting more people contacting us about raw milk sales. The first tier is, some of it's based on production, but you can only sell directly from your farm. So people have to come to your property to buy it there. The tier 2 option allows for raw milk to be sold at a farmer's market or delivered to someone's home. Online sales are not permissible for raw milk. Other dairy sales are, but raw milk specifically is not, and that's part of just how some of the rules and whatnot are set of where you can actually sell this product. So the biggest hurdle we have seen for people looking to get into doing raw milk is that the entire herd has to be tested for TB and brucellosis, and also have a rabies vaccine, and that's just for public health reasons. And we've had some dairies that may have a pretty large herd, and they don't want to cover the vet costs that it would cost to have that testing done. So we've had others that are very small, or they just have a few animals, and it's not been an issue or a hurdle for them. But that is another avenue for milk. And the raw milk inspections, you're only inspected once a year, so it's not too tedious in my opinion.
So related to the sort of in between raw and selling a bulk product, one of the questions that I have is around on-farm pasteurizing.
Mm-hmm.
And where does that fall in all of this? Does that end up being a processed product as well as a
Yep.
as a
So
sales product?
to pasteurize and take raw milk into a final product, it has to meet federal standards. So we've had a few calls that someone may have an in-home pasteurizer that they use for their family, and those do not meet federal standards. So we've run into that a good bit in discussing with people, and we've had a few farmers in the past 2 or 3 weeks that are looking towards going the official route with that. So if you're not selling it as raw milk, you have to meet federal standards, and also like you can't have like a certified kitchen. That doesn't pass muster for dairy regs. It has to be a separate room, building, and a lot of other tedious requirements. So we have one dairy farm that is purchasing a trailer that all they have to do is connect to their water and have a wastewater disposal, and everything they need that meets equipment standards is in that trailer, and they'll roll it off, and once they get water hooked up, they'll be able to start processing. So there are options.
And are there, for folks who are taking on prior, like already processed dairy products, if there's someone who's getting into either selling out of their farm stand, someone else's, inspected products, does the owner of the farm stand or the aggregator need to have a different permit or
as long as
license for doing that?
Yeah, as long as they're not changing anything with the dairy product. Like we have some people that buy cheese and they smoke it and then sell it. And if they do that, they are changing the product and they have to have a milk handler's license. If they're strictly like helping a neighbor or providing these things at a farm stand and it's not their milk, it's not their cheese, they've not processed it or whatever dairy product, they just need a retail license.
Thank you. I want to open this up for other folks as well. I'm sure that there are additional questions for Julie too. Thank you so much, Evie. I think we should just open this up for general questions for everyone. Feel free to put those in the chat. I have a couple more to sort of help seed this conversation too, if that sounds good. But please feel free to be writing them in as well. So there's also, I'm also seeing some questions around meat sales, whether there's if there's a farm that's shipping wholesale right now, if they are making the switch into direct sales, if they already have a wholesale or a commercial meat handler's license, do they then need to get a retail license? Where does that switch happen? Julie, would you mind sort of jumping back in and talking a little bit more about the process of meat?
So sure. So for the big processors that are actually under inspection that are selling the meat product now and they're wholesaling out to the different restaurants or other retail stores, if they want to sell them directly to the consumer in a retail package, more like a pre-pack type package, they would just need an extra $15 pre-pack license. Any other processor, small processors that want to take a meat product or a poultry product and process it further on under retail, right to direct consumer, would just need like a small processing license. And that has to do with more sanitation and other restrictions, temperature controls and things to that nature. But what we would do is an inspector would go there for an initial inspection and they would provide all that information for them at that time.
And I'm not going to make an assumption that everyone knows this. Would you talk a little bit about the difference between a Vermont state inspection for meat versus a USDA inspection, and which categories of products and where that can go?
So our state program, we follow the Federal Meat Inspection Act, so we have to be equal to the federal government when it comes to processing and doing our inspections out there. But our state meat program, you know, we provide to people that are just, you know, they're starting out and they're not quite sure about how to start a processing facility. So they come to us and we get them up and running under state inspection. The only difference with that is they cannot go across state lines with their product. It has to be in the state. And eventually a lot of them do go USDA and then they can go ship over state lines.
And at this point, we just have the one state inspected plant, or am I missing some? Is that Rose?
We also have one up in Milton too as well. And we also have a poultry plant in Grand Isle. So yeah, we've got quite a few state plants. They're small. You probably don't hear a lot about them. And it's, you know, what happens, like I said, we work with them, we give them the technical and regulatory assistance, and eventually they do wind up going USDA.
Thank you. And so just to look back in the chat, we had a question back for EB. What are the regulations for a restaurant to make or sell their own cheese from local raw milk?
Okay, so for a restaurant making their own cheese and selling it, they would need a milk handler's license, because if you're taking a dairy product and making it into a final product to sell, they would need a milk handler's license because they're actually processing and changing that. We have some restaurants, a lot more, that do, I would say, ice cream, and they have milk handler licenses. And the one big thing is they have to have a separate area in their kitchen. It can't just be commingled with other parts of the kitchen. It has to be separated and divided off and other things. So there is that. We do not require a retail license for restaurants if they are selling cheeses from other farms or things like that, because usually in that situation it's on like the appetizer menu or things like that. So that's not an issue. Some restaurants buy milk from the store and they make a yogurt or something to serve with the dish. They can do this with the health department inspecting them. They don't need a license from us if they are not packaging it to be sold. So if it's put on the dish and consumed in the restaurant and none of it can be sold for someone to take home, they can wiggle out of not having a milk handler's license. So there's seems to always be gray areas wherever you look.
Very true. So I have a couple of different questions swinging back into Greg and Bruce and Beth. So we have a question around advice for a place to start as far as marketing. And I have another question that's related, which is if there are farms that are looking at new markets rather than going into direct sales, what are the ways to get connected with aggregators or other partners that, what are the best ways to get connected to partners, you guys?
I guess I'll start with the first one about the Red Devon beef gentleman or woman. I'm not sure if it doesn't matter. Anyway, I think you want to decide what kind of operator you want to be. Do you want to sell wholesale or do you want to sell retail? I think it comes down to what you really love to do. Do you like interacting with customers? Do you like telling your story? Do you like do you like being with folks? You kind of extroverted out there in the world, or would you rather just farm and put your meat out to to somebody else who's going to market it? So that's the first thing. And then once you decide that, you need to decide who your ideal customer is in either arena, whether that's a wholesale, are you looking to sell to natural food stores and things like that, or do you want to get into larger chains on the wholesale side, or do you want to just sell to aggregators like Farmers to You or the Intervale Food Hub, for instance? And then on the retail side, you want to actually identify who your ideal customer is as a private individual. We know exactly who that is for us, and we market to that person exactly. And I'll let Beth actually talk to that a little bit more. Marketing.
Is that part of the question?
Yep, that's part of the question.
Okay. So yes, so we have done some extensive work figuring out who that person is and what they're after, and how we can be a guide for the people that are looking to, solve a problem, and that problem might be sourcing high quality pasture-raised meats. The customers of ours are usually mothers, women in a family that does most of the buying for their family. Whether it's, they have children at home and she wants the best for her children, and making a connection to the fact that the farm is transparent and cares for the animal during its length of time on the planet, and that while they're with us, we are building soil and doing the best for our land in a regenerative way. So, some of the buzzwords that people hear get a little confusing to some people, but we want to structure it so that it's very simple and that we're transparent, that we're solving their problems of sourcing good, high quality pasture-raised meats, as I said.
What was the second part of that question? Okay.
Go ahead, Greg.
I was just going to jump in and reiterate everything Beth and Bruce said is correct. If you're going to be a new farmer, we see it over and over again. The conversation tends to focus mostly on what do I want to grow, and the old adage of build it and they will come is not true in farming. You can grow the best crops on the planet, but if you don't know where they're going and you don't have a good diversified market out there or a partner, that's why we started Farmers to You, is I saw many really great farmers who did not know how to market, who did not know how to get their food into the marketplace. Then you won't succeed. So be careful and do your homework and figure out who your market is. We have, in the meat category in particular, I have a number of farmers who have actually only 3 or 4 customers, but they're diverse and they're solid long-term customers, and they actually make their life really easy. They've got a couple of restaurants. They've got a nice specialty store doing specialty meat cuts, and then maybe myself. And between the four of us, you know, when my business goes a little slow in the summer, the restaurants come up in the summer. So, you know, you want to really strategize about how to make it easy, how to make it reliable, and make sure they're good people and that you can stick with them a long time, that they pay their bills and et cetera. You know, but do that as at the same level of importance of figuring out your pasture plan or which, you know, genetics you want to have in your herd or anything else. It is absolutely as important.
What was the second part of that question, Jen?
So the second part of the question was, how do we link with people who already have the market instead of direct sales having too many players and becoming overcrowded?
So there's a couple of ways to do that. Currently, we are developing partner farms who grow under our protocols, and so they grow literally under our brand. So we have folks growing pasture-raised chicken. It's daily moved pasture-raised chicken. We detail the protocol right down to what they can use in their as bedding in their brooders, to daily move, to the type of feed that they can they can use, and then we also have the processing for that product. So so you could look to develop partnerships with people who already kind of have that vertical integration of everything that they need to get to market. We're just starting that with our poultry partner farms, and you know, the jury's out, but it seems like a great idea, and people are jumping at that opportunity, and we're going to continue to do that. So that's one way to look at doing that. And the other thing is to find, I think, a hole, a desert, as Greg would put it, in the marketplace, and try to fill that. And then, you know, then an aggregator like Farmers to You will be more inclined to carry your product and get and put that out to their network.
Yeah, let me speak to that too, because that's a great setup for the conversation. So I have one farmer in particular, and she's small, and she does mostly farmers markets, but she wanted to have a backup plan. She wanted to have another source of income. And I've known her for quite a while, and she's a really good vegetable grower. And she came to me and she said, I can grow really good Brussels sprouts. She grosses about $15,000 a year on Brussels sprouts with us. And, you know, she jokes every time she goes on vacation. She goes, thanks, guys, this is my vacation. So, you know, having a single specialty crop like that is your cash crop is actually a very old-fashioned good farming model. You know, you had your basic crops that were your subsistence crops, then you had something you were really good at that really had a niche in the marketplace, and you would expand that and find somebody who needed it. And then, you know, that's your cash crop, so to speak. So that's still a very viable and good model. And if you can do 2 or 3 of them, I wouldn't have any more than 3 of them. 2 would be great, 1 is fine. Then you've got a good model.
So we're coming to the end of time. Thank you so much. There was a question about Vermont State and USDA. Julie, I don't know if you saw that question, but I think that one's a quick answer, that Vermont is Vermont in state and USDA is out of state, all state lines. And we're not able to do the both. That's correct. Okay, so there's no state-to-state arrangements. It's either USDA or it's in-state.
That's correct. That's the way it is currently. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I know we're right at 1 o'clock. I had one little question. Hopefully, I feel like this is an NPR. How can we close this out in 30 seconds? what do you, Bruce and Beth, Greg, what do you guys see as a long-term, what's the post-COVID vision as you're looking at this? Are we doing more of what we're doing now, or is there something else? Can either of you answer in 30 seconds or less?
Go, Greg.
I'll tell you what, we are totally in the dark about that. We really don't know. I mean, some mornings I wake up and think when the stay-at-home order is lifted, that this kind of huge influx is going to end fairly quickly. Other times I think that people are going to, or at least maybe 50% of the people that came to us through the COVID crisis will stick with us. It's really hard to know.
The jury's out.
We're leaving our options open going forward, wondering, what, for instance, this coming fall will look like.
So I'm just going to say your latter, I would agree with you're going to keep 50%. I would say what this is proving to everybody is that a regional and local food system is resilient and robust and fully capable of feeding everybody. We ship full assortment of food from Vermont 52 weeks of the year. We can feed Vermont, we can feed New England. And let's get at it, and let's start to talk about how fantastic not only the quality of the food is that we have here, but also the strength of our regional distribution and our regional food system.
Excellent 30-second speeches, you guys. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you. And Lisa, would you like to wrap us up on our way out? I just want to thank everyone for your time today. Great questions, great answers. Really excellent discussion, and we have more materials that we'll be able to share after this.
Thank you. Thanks to our presenters, and thanks to all of you for joining us. I agree with Beth and Bruce that we really don't know what's going to happen, but Greg, that was the perfect note to close on, which is to the extent that we can play a role in influencing what happens, let's do it. And certainly one of the things that this COVID crisis has made clear to all of us is that these local direct-to-consumer, shorter supply chain food distribution systems have a resiliency that the long, convoluted supply chains do not. And we're really seeing that during that crisis, and so it behooves us all to make sure that these shorter supply chains stay intact and are strengthened, even when we go back to, quote unquote normal, or if we ever go back to normal. It's important that we take the lessons that we've learned here. To that end, we're continuing with these conversations about how farms and how consumers are adapting during this crazy, challenging time. Next week, same time, slightly different Zoom link. So next Wednesday, we're going to be talking about safely selling local food at farm stands and CSAs during COVID-19. And Ashlyn and Abraham from Rebot Farm, who joined us today, are going to be sharing what they've been doing at their farm stand, and they've even got a video. It's really amazing to see how they've made it safe and clean and accessible. And then we'll also hear from Sarah and James from Trillium Hill Farm, and they've got a different model. It's more of the online delivery curbside pickup, online orders curbside pickup model. So we'll show you a couple different models for how farms have figured out ways that are working for them for selling safely. And they'll also talk about the challenges. Obviously it's tough for everyone. And Bill Kavanaugh from NOFA Vermont, as well as Christina Sweet from the Vermont Agency Ag, will join us. And we're planning ahead for a couple weeks out, and we're always open to new ideas. So if you feel like there are topics that are deserving of attention, an hour-long conversation, shoot me an email and let me know. I will send out an email probably this afternoon with the links that were in the resources and in the chat. And we'll post everything on the website, go.uvm.edu, sell food. And I want to close with a quick question, which is, at some point I recognize that everybody's going to get sick of Zoom. You may already be sick of Zoom. So Zoom fatigue is a real thing. So for those of you still on your screens, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to fill out the poll that's on your screens, which asks, how do you want to get information about farming and selling Vermont food in the time of COVID-19? And options are everything from continuing conversations like what we're seeing today, to podcasts, Facebook, email, websites, and other. I'm going to end the polling and share the results so everyone can see. And it sounds like quite a few people, 70%, are still interested in the online conversations. Like today, we've got 30% interested in podcasts, a big fat 0 for Facebook, 40% for email, and 60% for website information. Well, we will certainly keep trying to share results however it makes sense for you. And we really want to thank you for joining us today, and follow up by email and by our website. And we look forward to hopefully seeing many of you back here next week to hear about safe farm stands. Take care.